Good evening and welcome to the Cheese Room. I'm Gibbo, your host tonight. Tonight we'll be discussing a reflection of the Chelsea game. We've got some talking points of the week and we've got some transfers and we'll put a little bit of Delhi in there as well. So joining me tonight, he's counting down the days till Wales have their two meaningful friendlies in the World Cup. It's James. How are you, James? All right, mate?
Oh, you can tell Dave wrote that, isn't you? I'm good, mate. I'm quite angry at Dave now. I've read that. I'm good. I have results day tomorrow, actually.
Do you?
So that was fun. Yeah. Lovely to be back as ever. Got lots of things to talk through, and hello to everyone in the comments and the lovely panel.
Good man. And the next guest is counting down the days apparently till he can start wearing his beanie again. Paul Muir, how are you, mate? All right?
Hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, I'm well. Thanks for having me on tonight. It feels quite nice to be on YouTube and being on such a salubrious panel. So loads to talk about and looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
And no worries, mate. And my third guest apparently is counting down the days till he can start evading the West Midlands Spurs Club. It's Craig from the East Midlands Supporters Club. How are you, pal?
I'm great, thanks, Gibbo. I hope you are well and that everyone's well. Thanks for having me back on tonight. The only thing tonight I'm conscious about is my squeaky chair. So if you have any squeaks or hear any squeaks, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to rectify the issue. But I'm suitably lubed up.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. That's what we like to hear. Right, everyone. Please give us a like. Click the like button if you're not a subscriber already. Subscribe. It only takes a second. It means everything to us. Apparently, it helps the algorithm and stuff like that. So please hit the like button. Right, first of all, breaking news. Romero injured. Out for 4 weeks, apparently. What do you reckon of that, James?
4 weeks. It's not good, is it? Because he's our best defender. So what, I mean, Sanchez is going to play? Likely.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know who else plays, really. It's really not good news. I think we'll be okay, in all honesty, because I think players like Sanchez can step in. Maybe even a back four. We went to that briefly against Chelsea. I think Sanchez will definitely come in. I'm glad it's happening now, injury-wise, as opposed to when we have a Champions League game or something more impactful. It's still pretty early on in the season. Hopefully he'll be back for Champions League games, sort of thing. So it's not great, is it?
No. I mean, we've spent, I just said a minute ago, didn't I? We spent all the last few weeks talking about our squad, people saying, oh, we'll be all right. Sanchez is an adequate fill-in if Romero's injured. Romero gets injured and Twitter has a meltdown. We need a new centre-back. Sanchez can't play. He's crap. What do you reckon, Paul? Paul, I thought when he came in last season, everybody thought it was season over. He did a decent job, didn't he?
Didn't let us down, did he? We didn't ship many goals, didn't lose many games. So this is Romero. Romero's been out for 16 games last season in total, and now he's going to be out for 4 or 5 this season. Not Lilleresque in any shape or form or anything like that, but I think you've got to start looking maybe. I don't know. Maybe is there some kind of like issue there with? I watched him when he warmed up. I went to Chelsea at the weekend. I watched him when he warmed up. He's very intense in the warm ups. It's almost like as soon as he gets onto the field, across the white line, he's going for it. Even in the rondos and the warm ups and things like that, he's giving it like 70, 75, 80%. I know he wants to get himself into the zone, but he's like from the get go. I don't know if he's training too hard or he's doing too much work off the pitch or whatever, but. Yeah, missing those games last season, and then obviously he's out now for another 4 or 5. As James said there, I think we'll be all right. I'm glad it's now. You know, what we've got. I think it's according to Twitter, he should be back for like maybe the City game, and that would be ideal because we obviously need him for the City game. I'm not worried at all about Sanchez being there. He didn't let us down, as you said, Gibbo, back end of last season. It's fine. It'll be fine.
No, we've got to deal with it, haven't we? I mean, we're talking about that our squad's being better. We're going to get injuries. You never. I know he appears to be quite injury prone, but what do you think? Who do you think will come in, Craig? Sanchez or Tanganga?
I think you've just got to look to pre-season. I think in pre-season, Sanchez played pretty much every one of the pre-season games, and he did as well as anyone else who played in them centre-back positions. So I think last season, you mentioned it, Gibbo, he came in and I thought he was brilliant. There was a bit of a meltdown last season when he came in. He did a great job. I expect nothing different now. I think we've got this bloated squad, and it is a bloated squad. It's full of centre-halves. You know, Linglet, Davis, Dyer, Tanganga, Sanchez, Royal at a push, Perisic at a push. You know, we aren't short at centre-half. So that's the point of having the squad we've got. And, you know, it will be Sanchez, I think, that will come in. And I think he'll be fine. And look, it's a great time. We've said Wolves, Forest, West Ham, Fulham, you know, the next sort of key games leading up to the City game. There's, you know, if that was City, Arsenal, Liverpool, you'll probably be a little bit more worried. I think we'll be fine with those fixtures and with the form that he's shown. So, yeah, no problem at all for me.
I mean, for the immediate future, obviously, we're not worried. We've got players who can come in. But obviously, Paul, do you think these injuries he keeps picking up, are you concerned about the amount of injuries he gets and the amount of time he spends on the sidelines through injury?
No, not yet. I think if we lose him again, pre or post World Cup for an extended period of time, then you've got to look at maybe there is an issue there, the way he trains or the way he looks after himself, or just generally the way he plays the game. You know, we know he goes flying in for those tackles. He's an aggressive kind of physical guy. You know, maybe, you know, he needs to maybe just tone it down from being 9 and 9.95 down to maybe a 9 or an 8.5. I'm not too, to answer your question, Gibbo, I'm not too concerned yet. But if there's another 4, 6, 8 weeks out, either pre or post World Cup, then I will be concerned that there is something there. I'll be very concerned.
Yeah, because they've not really gone into it what it is. They've just said muscular, haven't they? But I mean, what do you think, Craig? Do you think it's an issue, or do you think it's something that we can? Because I'm sort of at the point where I know we're I agree with Paul. We've got to tone him down from that 9.9. But I think he's just always going to be one of those players who plays on the edge. Do you think we can save him from himself, or do you think?
I think he is a player that plays at the 9s and 10s all the time. But also, you've got to remember, we've got a manager that demands that as well. So, there's no manager. Conte is not going to turn around to him and say, look, just chill today, play it at 7, play it at 6. It's not going to happen. What Conte would say, I'm sure, is that's why we have the squad. It's about rotation in those key games. And bringing in Sanchez or Linglet or Davis or whoever it's going to come in, Tanganga, into those games when we need to. So I don't think we're going to see him chill down to a 7 or an 8 or whatever. He's going to play at 9.9 the whole game, and Conte wouldn't have anything else but. So I think we've got to live with it, accept it. That's why we've got the squad we've got, and crack on.
Yeah. What about you, James? Do you think that the injuries worry you, or do you think it's just one of them things?
I think muscular injuries always worry me just a little bit, because it's not like a bad foul's happened in training or a match where you think, okay, that's what's caused it. It could be he's training too hard or something like that. I'm not mega worried yet, because again, he's still young. It's only hasn't happened enough. But I think if it were to continue in a trend, then I would be very worried. But you'd have to assume, with all the facilities we'd have someone who can identify that there's an underlying cause behind these injuries and put something in place to prevent it in the future. So I would have to trust that whoever is around could do that and hopefully limit his injuries in the future.
See, I assume that he's got his own. Conte's got his own fitness team and that. But you hear stories, don't you, that the Tottenham medical staff are fucking awful. You heard that, Craig? Oh, go on. Paul, I saw Paul, but sorry, Craig. Paul.
It's all changed now. Conte brought his own team with him, and I know the doctor. I don't know the doctor, but I know that the doctor has changed, and the physios have all changed. So, yeah, that idea of maybe 3 or 4 years ago when we couldn't find out what was wrong with Lamella or somebody like that, those days are over now. We've got a completely new team, and we also work with a completely different set of outside contracts and professionals, things like people like radiographers who take scans and things like this. We use completely different people now. So I think we've changed. We've taken steps to change that over the last. I think certainly since Conte came in.
That's reassuring to hear, isn't it, Craig? So I was going to come to you because obviously until we've had players who have got injured and they've been out. You know, they were out for longer than we thought they were going to be. So that's pretty good news, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it spurs bogey is we got a history of it, haven't we? You go right the way back. We've had players that are constantly on the injury table. Darren Anderton, the famous story about Darren Anderton, his injury issues, and he had to take himself away from Tottenham, didn't he, and seek private treatment to get himself sorted because he didn't trust what he was getting told at Spurs. So I'm going right back to the early days, but I think I didn't realise they'd done that full revamp of the setup. So that's good to hear, Paul. And I think it's. I think one thing you see now is with Conte and his fitness ethic and the team he has around them is he knows that they have to have the right support around these players, particularly when it comes to musculoskeletal injuries and stuff. And they've clearly got it. So I've just been looking at Romero's injury stats, actually. I'm doing a James job, but it's not that bad overall. It's not like he's got this dogged history of issues. His last muscular problem was in 2021, 5 days. That's it. Everything outside of that's been abductor or hip. It's not that bad. So obviously last season there was a lot, wasn't there, because of the hamstring injury he had.
Yeah.
But that's the only real lengthy period he's had out in his career so far, to be honest. So I'm not overly worried.
Okay.
Guys, have we bought him yet?
No, it's not been confirmed. It's not confirmed yet, is it? We're still waiting on. I think we've been told in the media and stuff that we're waiting for that to be announced, but it hasn't been announced yet.
I don't think they'll announce it. I just think it will just happen.
They did with Lo Celso, didn't they? Can you remember we announced Lo Celso on the day that Ericsson left?
I wonder if that was a PR thing, as it were. Like, okay, Ericsson's leaving, but we have this guy.
Yeah. No doubts, mate. So
maybe if we have like a bad result or something, I'll go, it's okay, Romero's staying permanently.
Yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, it's like obviously not great news, but we're all pretty positive about it, aren't we? We got bodies who can come in. That's the whole point in having the squad that we've all been talking about all summer. So we move on, and the players who come in have got to step up, haven't they? It's that simple. That's what it's all about at the top level. So, right, we'll move on then. Chelsea at the weekend. We'll go to Paul first, because obviously Paul was there. What were you? You discussed it on the pod, Paul, really well. Yeah. Really good discussion on there. So we won't go into it like as in depth as they did on Monday or on there. But what did you take from the game, mate?
Chelsea is still a pain in the arse to get to safely, come back out of, because they're a bunch of fucking idiots. Sorry, there goes the 18. We didn't play well. I'm going to say that straight away. Son is carried on from last week where he didn't play great. They were ultra aggressive. Even Kane's first touch wasn't great either. Cucurella's got Cooley's number. He has. Yeah. That's just the way it is. And the way that Tuchel kind of outthought mentally, not with his fists and handshakes, but the way that he changed the formation from sometimes from a 3-4-3 to a back five into something like a 4-2-2-2 when they're attacking, etc., etc. So that's what I took from that. I took from it as well that we believed the very, very last minute, as it showed in the styles and systems that Conte want us to play. We didn't panic. We wasn't playing well. We didn't kind of like just start pumping it long as well. Good subs at the right time from Conte as well. Richarlison made a difference. Perisic obviously made a great difference as well. And we hung in there and we didn't fold and we didn't capitulate. These are all positive things as I'm concerned.
No, I'm with you, mate. I thought what we showed was, if anything, was that we got a good team spirit. We believe, because we could have got pumped in that game, couldn't we? We just. James? So obviously you're a little bit more a lot more tactically aware than me. I just thought it was a typical Chelsea Spurs game at the Bridge, but I think I mentioned it on Monday. Tuchel's and Chelsea have just got our number, haven't they? The way they set up, the way they play, they've just got our number.
Yeah. So what they did was they would always defend with 5 because they identified they had to do that. But very much by having Loftus-Cheek in that inverted right wing back position, he would come in. So they'd effectively outnumber us in midfield, and they were able to push us back. It's kind of like what Guardiola does with City, right? And that's why we really struggled to get out in transition. What Conte did in the second, just after the second half, was he changed us to a back four because they were playing very, very wide, right, with their wingers. So what Conte did was he thought, okay, we'll play very, very narrow. We'll play two up front and we'll just push everything through the middle, which worked, and we got our goal. And then Tuchel changed it again, and he put Reece James into a more attacking position, and we gave away a fairly soft goal, in my opinion. But they were then using the advantages of a three-at-the-back system to play out wide. And Conte changed it again and reverted to the system we started with, but he put on more attacking players, which gave us more pressure, and we got the goal in the end. But it was very interesting in that sense. I think Conte should have acted much quicker in the first half. I think really he could have identified what was happening sooner. Not even necessarily made a substitution, but just pushed players higher up the pitch, to some degree. Like he could have pushed up Sessegnon to being even a winger and gone to a four at the back. And I think had he done that early in the game, then that would have unsettled Chelsea and we might have done better. But we weren't great in a lot of ways. But at the same time, I think tactically it was very interesting to see two managers who do know what they're doing, which is why we struggled, I think, so much.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, I don't think we weren't very good. We were fucking awful. But I do think that tactically they were spot on. Like, so Craig, obviously I've got in the run sheet here, is like Kulusevski still climbing out of Cucurella's pocket. But like, it weren't just Cucurella, was it? I mean, Kane and Son were both poor as well. I mean,
I think it's quick. We're quick though to jump on Kane, Son, and Kulu and say they had a bad day in the office. I think you've got to look at what was happening in that middle third that prevented them from getting in the game in the first place. We were vastly outnumbered in the first half in the middle of the park every time as as we
always are when we play Chelsea.
Absolutely. And James eloquently put around that was a problem for us, and we couldn't get on the ball. So if we're not getting on the ball, we're not getting the ball into them in the right areas of the pitch, they're not going to do bits. They're just not. So I think you've got to expect that a little bit. I do think, as James has said, we perhaps knowing Chelsea, knowing what they do, we could have and should have changed things a bit earlier in that first half. I think the tactical battle that developed in the second half was fascinating, and I agree with James again on the way that they sort of chess play went on and they countered each other's moves was brilliant from a tactical perspective. But I just felt it was almost a case of first half we'll just suck it up, we'll take it, we'll suffer, as Conte famously always says, and we'll try and get out of it. And I think it probably that enabled or didn't help the perception that Kane, Kulu and Son had a particularly bad game. I mean, they weren't great, don't get me wrong, but they didn't have the opportunities to be great either, is my view.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought there were times when they did get the ball where they could have helped the team out a little bit more, but touch let. I mean, Son was poor. I don't want to have a go at Son because he is a truly fantastic player. But fantastic players have poor runs of form, don't they, or don't play well. It's just, he just doesn't look like at the top of his game. I see you wanted to jump in there, Paul. What did you want to say, mate?
Give me who's the best player in the league with a back to goal? It's Harry. It is Kane.
Yeah.
It is Kane. He was coming short. He's the trigger. The ball normally comes to him. He can normally take it on the half turn and set us away. There was none of that. And the times that he did fire it into him, and he had it 3 or 4 times in the first 15, 20 minutes, it bounced off him.
Yeah.
It got around him. Yes, they have Conte, and I know they have Jorginho, and
The press, to be fair, Paul, the press was ridiculously good by Chelsea. It was.
Craig, he's been pressed like that before. He got pressed like that at Wolves. He got pressed like that at Burnley. He gets pressed like that at Southampton, and they're all over him. And he was fine. He retained the ball. I would say Reece James at the back of Son was perfect defensive play, and Son is not very good with his back to goal. We know that. He's better on the half turn. We're at pace and use his pace. We get that. When the ball did go in our front three, they didn't retain it. The press is a part of it, Craig. I admit that, but also their first touch isn't what we expect from especially Harry and
Kulu.
and cool in my opinion. They were. Thiago was aggressive. So was Reece James, and they had Jorginho and Conte until his hamstring went. And Conte's hamstring went probably helped us. But Conte was amazing at the weekend.
And James was just fantastic.
Just closes off the passing lane, screens in front of Harry, will come across the screen in front of Son as well if he has to stop the ball coming into there. It was just one of those days where like nothing stuck, and yeah, I mean, obviously Chelsea did play well, and the stuff that James has alluded to, and the stuff that Craig's alluded to as well, but we didn't help ourselves. We didn't help ourselves.
I think you're both spot on, because I think what Paul said happened, and I think I think it was just everything. I think the result we got was fantastic.
Yeah.
But they're right. James, are you online, mate? Or
yeah, I am.
I was just going to bring you in, mate. I said, like, obviously, Craig said that he thought it was the pressing from Chelsea that was why we weren't very effective. And then, obviously, Paul was saying, like, the front three, they're touchable, Paul. I think it was, like, the perfect storm of shit. I think, like, Chelsea were fantastic in that, and we were poor at what we needed to do. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think there's a slightly deeper issue. And I'm starting to think this might be why Conte has always struggled in the Champions League a little bit. The thing he does is he tries to create almost replicable passing and movement. So players always know that if they move to X, Y, Z, they'll be at a passing option. That's one thing he spoke about when he, like, even as he started coaching. I think because of that, we can be at times a tad predictable. And what Tuchel did was he really created overloads in areas we couldn't handle. I mean, part of it comes down to personnel as well. I mean, if we had better players, maybe we'd have done better. Like, I think Emerson, whenever he got the ball, he was really, really slow. And just every time he got the ball, it looked like our attacks slowed down. It could be a confidence thing. Maybe he's just a bit slow. You know, it's not an easy environment to play in, and it was bloody hot. I had heat stroke that day, and like I wasn't in London, and I was sat watching a game on the TV in 34 degrees, and I like died basically. But it's just, I think it's just one of those things where we very much didn't adapt tactically to what Chelsea were doing until like quite late. I think when we did well, but it's a multitude of tactical battle and also personnel battle, because I think some of our players weren't good enough on a day. Son wasn't brilliant. Kulusevski wasn't great. I don't think Emerson was very good. I think Sess was really up for it and he did all right, but he's obviously getting a bit frustrated. And again, tactically, we were played out of the game for large periods of time. The one thing I will say, though, is we never bloody get a result at Chelsea, and we still got a result. And the fact that we got the goal so late shows the mentality switch. And do you know what? That's the point we didn't get last season. And we didn't beat Southampton last season. So do you know what? We're better than we were last season. +4 with these issues. Yeah, exactly. We're +4. 4 points closer to the title book, guys.
Exactly. Yeah, Craig, I mean, what do you think? I think, obviously, we didn't play well. That, for me, is a typical Chelsea Spurs game at the Bridge. But surely we'll come out of that, like, getting that result how we did at the time we've got it.
Yeah,
I think that should stand us in good stead going into Saturday's game at Wolves. What do you think?
Oh, massive! I mean, my take on it: the squad don't need belief anyway. The squad have belief. They believe, passionately, and they do not waver from their belief that Conte has given them on the systems and the way that they want to play. So, us for fans though, it's great, isn't it? And it's always great when you snatch a draw, particularly, at a team like Chelsea in the 96th minute. I know with the criticism we've been getting from rival fan bases about the fact we celebrated it like the Champions League win or whatever. But you know what? I think they missed the point for me. I watched it at home. I was jumping up and down on the sofa, going mad. And the reason I was celebrating it is because they couldn't. They couldn't celebrate the win against us, and that's what it was about for me. It's like we've done you here. We've come to your ground where we don't get any success. We've not got. We didn't score a goal there, did we, last season? I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. No. We've gone there, scored 2 goals in your backyard, and snatched victory from the, snatched a draw from your jaws when you should have won. I loved it, and it was just brilliant. So the belief that will go into Wolves, Fulham, West Ham, etc. is just brilliant for me. I just don't see anything but an upward trajectory from here. I do think, by the way, just from our season and the ambitions and aspirations that I think we as fans have, and the squad clearly have, is that to get something out of Chelsea was critical. I think to get that draw, win would have been amazing. To get the draw, though, I would have snatched your hands off of that at the beginning of the game. And I just think it gives the way we won it. Got the draw. So I keep saying win because it felt like a win. The way we got the draw at that last minute, it's just going to massively help us going forward.
No matter what they say, it's a positive result, isn't it? It's a positive result for us, that. But
they were
Paul,
gutted. You come out of the shed, and it, as James said, it was roasting. It was 33, 34 degrees. I was sweating like I was in my old job, basically. It was we'll come out to the main ground past the Superstore, past the Malinovskyi Hotel. You walk right next to the Chelsea fans, and if anything's going to happen and be said, and there's plenty happening, there's plenty being said on at the weekend, they were gutted. They were gutted. We were shouting Antonio, singing our songs and stuff, and they just coming back with like Champions of Europe. You'll never sing that, but you could tell when I didn't go right. I didn't go right. I came left and went back to the King's Road and kept my head down. But listening, and they were gutted. It felt like a loss to them, and that backs up what Craig was saying. It felt like a win, and to do that in the 96th minute, when that lot are giving you loads of abuse, goes quite close to their fans on the right. It was a lovely moment, Gibbo. I'm not going to lie. I went absolutely apoplectic. That's what football's about, mate. If you can't enjoy moments like that,
don't fucking bother.
Oh God,
you're in London. Craig, Gibbo, James, you know what it's like. These guys, when you see them, there is an underlying element to that club which is fucking horrible, right? And I don't say that lightly. And then to come away and do that, it's absolutely what Craig said. It did feel like a win. I see that. I see that as a massive kind of step forward to being better than we were. Not only in points, because we took points off Saints last weekend and points off Chelsea. Beginning of the game of the season and last weekend. But I just see that going there, being under the cosh, not for all the things I said before, and then coming out and scoring in the 96th minute. Basically an OG of one of the best players of their thigh. Mate, if you cannot enjoy football at that point in time, it's not for you. It's just not for you. Go do fly fishing or something like that.
Well, we as Spurs fans, we've all been the other side, haven't we? Paul. We've been there. How many games at home last season we dominated possession? Wolves that went up the other end and scored the last minute, or whatever.
Brighton, 94th minute, Brighton at home, like when we chased the league and we're doing okay, and that pops the Kukurela, Bissouma, and those guys pass it out to the Dutch Belgian guy, and he just puts it in with 93 minutes. We've all, Craig, you're absolutely right. We've all been there. We've all been there.
And that's what made it for me so much sweeter, because I've walked out the ground, I've been on the receiving end of that blow, I knew how crap it felt, and knowing it was us doing it to them there is just like brilliant. It was
and not just last season, is it? It's like years and years, decades we've had shit like that. So James, what I was going to come on to though, mate, how good was it? Like you were talking earlier, so Conte, this time last year or any time last year, we're going into a game like that, we got to make changes from the players we've had to bring off the bench. But what we did on Sunday, we brought on quality players. We brought off players, like we could even bring Son off, and really we didn't like lower the quality on the pitch. It was, if anything, just as, we looked better because he wasn't at it. And that is great, isn't it? That's what we've been after for a long time.
Oh, it's overwhelmingly what we've needed for so long. To be able to go, okay, someone's having a bit of a bad day. Like last season, a couple of seasons before, it's like, oh, okay, well, who are we going to bring on? No,
he might score. We'll have to leave him on, but yeah.
Whereas now, Conte can go, right, mate, you're having a shit today. Isn't that deep, but come off, Perisic, mate, go on. And he's a different kind of player as well. He's still a quality player, but he's a different kind of thing to deal with, in a sense. It's the same in other positions. Like you can go, okay, we're struggling up front. Send on Richarlison. He's different to Harry Kane. He's different to Son. He's probably going to wind up the other team's defenders quite a lot by just being a bit of shit. And, it's the same when we brought on Moura. Like, Moura's our third attacking option sub now, right? But he's still solid coming on late on in games because he is pretty quick and he can run at people. That's definitely what we've needed for so long, because you can change things tactically as well. But we have three I mean, they're not all attacking options solely because Perisic is also a wing back, but we have 3 solid attacking options we can bring on in these games. Paul.
Yeah, go on,
Sorry.
Paul.
You know that one-on-one that Cess had in the first half. Dias dinked it over, and he's got him behind. I think it might have been Cucurella. No, it wasn't. It would probably reach James.
Been on the right hand,
or Loftus-Cheek on track.
Loftus-Cheek.
I'm telling you now, when you see that, it's only going to go in one place because Cess is left-footed. Okay.
Yeah.
As we saw with the corners, his first corner, he's not great. Oh, sorry, he's not great with his right foot, but Perisic is that wide on that one-on-one. The keeper knows he can use his left and his right. It opens up different angles. And I think as well is that Perisic, of course, agent of chaos. Sorry, we're not too sure what happened in that, but he's got a better chance of scoring either with his left or his right. Doesn't have to take it low down with his left, and basically Mendy can like guess where Cess is going to put it.
Yeah,
I think what James is saying there about Perisic is spot on. Croatia has played left forward and left wing back as well. I think when you've got that kind of option off the bench, and he's getting back from the calf injury he had end of last season in Italy, but he's looking strong, he's looking fit, and I think he'll start the weekend. I think he'll start Perisic at the weekend. I know we're going to come on to that, but
yeah. I think I'm with you, mate.
Yeah.
And he's got it up here, hasn't he? You know, have you seen the bit where he was talking to like Cess when they had the drinks break, and he was going over and talking to him, and he'll talk to Son and stuff like that. You know, like I said this before about Spurs buying players and people saying, well, you know, it's not about first team, it's about a squad, and we got to stop thinking about that like that. And I'm like, well, if that's okay, but these players that come in have got to buy into everything that we're doing. They've got to buy into Conte, and he has, hasn't he, Craig? You know, he, like I said, he just looks a class act, doesn't he?
Oh, I got probably a little bit more excited than I should have done when I saw Perisic giving Cess that little pep talk and that water break on the time. He just, I think someone tweeted, actually, I saw a tweet later on that night about, is he a member of our backroom coaching staff or whatever? But that's why he's been brought in, right? You know, I remember when we signed him, there was people moaning about the fact he's too old or he's too that, he's whatever. But he's experienced, he's a winner, born winner, and he's giving that to Cess. He's developing Cess, not for this season, but for, 2 years' time when Perisic is gone and he's no longer with us. And we're going to have this, hopefully, established Cess ripping it up on that left-hand side. And I'm all for it. I love Perisic. I think he's a class act. I agree with both of you. He's going to start on Saturday. I'm sure of it. And I also believe that he would have scored that goal if he was in there as well, Paul.
I do. Also, as well, Cess now he knows like next season Udogie's coming.
Yeah,
so,
it's now.
As we said, and I know I've said this before on the pod, and I might have said it here on YouTube. Cess, this is his season. If he doesn't do it this season, this is it. Then he's got probably one of the best specialised wing backs coming from Italy, who the manager, the world-class elite manager wants. This is Cess' time to like learn, as Craig was saying from Perisic.
Yeah.
Also, and then like just establish himself as almost kind of like undroppable, unless it rotation-wise we've got a lot of games. But he's got to do it now because this what I've seen of this kid coming from Italy. He
looks a business, doesn't he?
He does. He's like only Perisic outscored him last season.
Yeah.
You know,
they're talking about him getting called up to the full Italian squad. There
you go.
I mean, I can't remember where I listened to it, but like if you look at his numbers, you look at him and you listen to him talk and you listen to other people talk. I think he could be ready now to play for Spurs if we wanted that. So, but we're not in a position where we're like desperate for him, are we? If you get what I mean. No. Probably could help our team, but we're not desperate. Yeah. So I think Perisic, brilliant, fantastic. I'm hoping he'll start the weekend. Just like other players will be looking at him, seeing what he's doing, seeing the shape he's keeping himself in, seeing what he's doing round the club. And that can only benefit everybody at Tottenham Hotspur, can't it?
Yep.
So James, moving the other player we brought on who changed things. Not someone who I've really championed, but Richarlison came on, and I thought he gave us what Son couldn't on that. I thought he just. I didn't think his touch was a lot better than Son's or his control or anything. I just thought he just sort of gave us a little bit more physicality and a little bit more belief and caused a little bit more chaos. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He's very much got that South American, and sorry to be generalizing an entire continent. He has that South American shithousery, doesn't he? And to be honest, I don't think it's generalization because all the esports players I know from Brazil are exactly the same personality-wise. He's got that kind of fire in him, whereas Son's he's a nice guy. Whereas Richarlison's like, all right, I'm going to bash my head into you. He definitely was a lot more direct. That's something we know from Everton. He takes a lot of shots in the box, and he gets quite direct. He takes more shots in the box than Son does last season, I think, while playing for a much worse team. I think the thing to realise when you bring on a guy like Richarlison is that even if he's not scoring or creating chances, he will definitely be direct. Whereas I think the thing I noticed about Son as well, sorry to divert a little bit, is that his touch was really weird. He kept dropping deeper, I noticed as well, which I'm fine if Kane does it because he's got a great pass in him, but it's not really what you want Son doing. And his touch always seemed really heavy. And Son just seemed off it. I'm not sure really what it is, because we know he can be a brilliant player. I don't know if he's just having his crap spell now, or if it was the heat, or if it was the game, but he's played in several of these derbies before. You think, as one of the older players in the squad, he would have his head screwed on straight. But yeah, strange one for Son. Richarlison definitely came on, has a lot more fire to him. I think he's possibly one of those players who enjoys these rowdier games. He thrives off it. So
Absolutely.
I think in some of those games, maybe even he starts. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Craig, I thought he came on, and I thought like I said, I thought without being anything really special, without doing anything special, he sort of just didn't really change the game into our favour because we were never really in control, were we? But he gave us something else.
Yeah, he gave them something to think about. That's the way I looked at it. He brought on. He was direct. He had his pace. He was giving them something to think about. But ultimately, it's what his combativeness he brought to the game, his willingness to get in there and get stuck in and not shy down and not back down to anyone or anything. And I loved that. And I think that time and that pitch, Richarlison, Romero, Dyer, Højbjerg, these are people that you will run through brick walls for that team. You wouldn't want to mess with that squad, would you? Let's be honest. You put them together, you're running the other way. And
Davis is another one, mate.
Yeah.
Throw his body in the line.
You saw that, you saw Richarlison when it was the times when it sort of kicked off. He was in the middle of it, giving it some and pointing to the referee to send off or to book whoever it was, wasn't he? It was brilliant to see. I love Richarlison, and we keep talking about he's not the Kane replacement. He's not the Kane alternative, is it? He's, as we saw on Saturday, they will play both of them together at the same pitch, and they will be an effective partnership. And again, it gives Kane an opportunity to be able to sit down and take a break when he needs to, because he can come in and do that job. But I'm more excited about seeing them up there together. In them games when we need it to be done.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen the photograph of Mendy looking like this, and then the players in shot in the photograph are Lucas Moura, who's got, I keep saying this, he's got British sleep at the front post.
Yeah.
You got Kane, who gets a little eyebrows, little kind of sideways glance on it, and if Kane misses it, Richarlison's going to get it because he's right behind him. He's
they were three in a line.
That ball coming in, they knew where it was. They overloaded the front post and they went for it. And that was a great delivery. But Richarlison makes. Bren said this the other night, and me and Bren disagree quite a lot about Richarlison. But he made a very good point about Richarlison might not have the elite stats that I used to go on about and stuff, but he creates space. He occupies areas, and he makes other players kind of play a bit better around him as well. And I'd never really thought about that until I saw it on Sunday. He's right. He's occupying two Oppo defenders, and that's giving someone else a bit more space for a late third man run, or Kane to do his shit, or to do something like that. I'm glad. I mean, Son's got a ship up. Son has got now you've got a £60 million player like that waiting. Son is not undroppable anymore. Anymore.
No,
and I think
none of them are, Paul. None of them are.
Yeah.
None of them are, mate.
I didn't mean to jump in there. Sorry.
Can I just say something to this comment? It reminds me a little bit of when we signed Vincent Janssen, of all people, who was not a good signing. Right. I just want to point out one thing. We were struggling against Everton our first game of the season, back when they were half decent. And ironically, bringing him on, Janssen of all people, gave Kane more space. That's another underrated thing that Richarlison can definitely do. Even if he's having a bad game, right, he will create more space for Kane by being in similar areas to him. And for Son, if they're all on the pitch at the same time. So that's definitely something that he can provide because he's just so direct. It's just another thing he does.
So, like, obviously, talking about that, last one I'm going to throw into the mix before we get towards the end of that Chelsea game is, like you said about Richarlison, Paul, occupies two players. The one player who gets another player who gets a lot of stick is Højbjerg. I mean, he scored a decent goal. We've got in the run sheet here. How much longer is Højbjerg going to last? Because Basuma will take over from him. I'll go to Craig first. Craig, what are your thoughts on Højbjerg?
I I like Højbjerg a lot. I've got a lot of time for Højbjerg. I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. I will say I do think that longer term Basuma is the better option. Is my view. That said, I don't believe Conte feels the same. I think Conte sees Højbjerg as one of his generals on the pitch. You know, there's no coincidence he plays 90 minutes of every single game. You know, preseason game, league game. I just don't see anything but Højbjerg and Conte, you know, together. To be honest, and I actually think cases like Saturday at Chelsea. There's times when I would like to see Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Basuma on the pitch at the same time. You know, it doesn't have to just be the two of them. It can be the three. And that's what I was talking about the first half at Chelsea. I'd like to have seen that extra man put into that midfield and really change the dynamic in there and taken control of it. But I do think I love Højbjerg. I've always liked Højbjerg. I do think he gets a lot of unfair slack, if I'm being honest. But he is definitely Conte's man.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say, Paul, was I don't care what anyone says. I mean, I don't think he is the best midfielder we've got technically, or like quality-wise. But come the end of the season, he will have played more games than any of our other midfielders. And that Bentancur, Basuma, and Skip, he'll have played more than them. He'll have more goals than them, and he'll have more assists than them. And he's not as good as those. But he will have those stats over them. I'm sure of that. There's just something about him that he is going to play. I don't know what it is.
I agree. I agree with what you said there, Gibbo. I think the weekend, as James has pointed out, and Craig also mentioned as well, they had 3 against our 2. 3 very good players as well, and then Mason Mount was floating in there as well, and then Sterling was coming back, and almost like, you know, there was like 4 players up against like Bentancur, and Davies trying to come in and help out. Anyway, to judge Højbjerg at the weekend that's just foolish, because, you know, 4 top class players against him and Bentancur is not the right way to judge someone. I agree. Ever since we bought him, he's been a steady 6.5, 7, sometimes 8 out of 10, when the rest of the team collectively have been 3s, 4s, etc. Okay, you know what you're going to get with him. Okay, he's very, very steady. We know exactly what he brings. I don't subscribe to this arm waving thing. Yes, he directs stuff, but also as well, he gets him through a hell of a lot of work when you see him live. He might not be the flashiest player. He might not, like, you know, do lung bursting runs like, you know, kind of box midfielders, but what he does is essential contact system. I think I'd like to see him and Basuma next to each other. I think Basuma is ball carrying as well. He's showing a little bit of it now. I don't think Basuma is particularly 100% fit right now, looking at him on Sunday. But I think maybe Højbjerg with Bentancur next to him. Bentancur carrying the ball is an absolute machine. He's superb at it. He showed us when he played for Brighton against us last season. He's very, very good. He's top 5, I think, the top 6 midfielders last season for ball carries, for progressive ball carries, excuse me. So that's really, really exciting. But I believe Højbjerg gets a lot of unnecessary stick, Gibbo. I'm absolutely with you, mate, on the same page on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to make out he's the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not. I just think that he gets a lot of stick, but people just, it's not going to happen. He's not going to get dropped and not play and be completely out. He's a massive part of that, what Conte wants and what we do. And I think there's more to, you know, there's just, I heard a really good, I reckon it was on the Football Ramble once, there was they had an interview with him before he came to Spurs. He was at Southampton when he talked about his life and his role in the football team and what he does. It was really good. So if you can find that anywhere, it's well worth a listen. It just basically says, I see myself like, do you know, I think on other people have called him like a cement mixer and said stuff like that. And I think literally before that even happened, he said, I am like the cement in a wall. My job is so I can make sure that, say, it didn't mention these names, but make sure that Harry can get the ball, drop in there, and and do that, and he can do that. That's what he's all about.
It's a lovely strike at the weekend as well. Davey shoveled it inside to him, one touch, bang, and that I was right behind it as well. And I don't subscribe to the idea of Richarlison was in. Mendy saw it all the way, and a lovely arrow in the corner, especially when Kane shafted something wide.
Oh yeah,
10 minutes. Yeah, you know what I mean. So he's one of the few midfielders that we've had that's actually hit it from outside the box. I think he scored one against Liverpool.
Villa at the lane.
Well. It's like exactly. So he's not scared to hitting the ball from the 18-yard box.
Yeah.
Which you could say that something apart from like when we had Huddlestone.
Yeah.
That we didn't do. But no, he's essential to Conte ball. He is. He's essential.
Yeah.
Simple.
That's it. Right then, James, I'm coming to you for the last point on the game. We won't go through all the goals and how it panned out. You're the youngest panel member. Conte and Tuchel, mate, are they bringing back the passion, or are they just two middle-aged men who should know better?
I mean, isn't Conte in his 50s now? Is that middle-aged?
Careful, James.
Yes, middle-aged, mate.
You be bloody careful what you're saying right now, all right?
Well, look, you can be an old bloke and still be useful, right? I'm not saying that. But
we are. Some of us are quite useful, mate. You know, we know what days the bins go out. We know. Do you know what I mean?
I know what days the bins go out. Like I know all this stuff. I'm taking all your places. Well, I think Tuchel got very wound up. I think Conte. We know Conte's quite emotional. You know, bit stereotypical of an Italian, but he's very fiery. I mean, did you see his Instagram post where he said if I saw Tuchel, I'd have tripped him up?
Yeah, brilliant. Do you know what that made me think, James? That made me think that maybe after the game, they got together, banged their heads together and thought, look, it's all kicked off. Maybe Conte really is a shithouse like that. But I sort of thought, they got over it. But carry on. Sorry, mate.
It's fine. The actually, it kind of almost supports what you said. The thing is, when Conte was interviewed after the game, and the interviewer was like, "Oh, what about the incident with Tuchel?" Conte was like, "Well, if there is something between us, maybe there is, but it's between me and him, and I'll talk about it." He was kind of, he was saying, "Look, me and Tuchel have a problem. It's between me and Tuchel. We'll sort it out. Talk to me about the football game that occurred, right?"
Yeah.
Sorry, this gave me a giggle. But it's good to see. You always get out of Antonio Conte, right? He's not a guy who just sits still and he's like, "Oh, we're losing. Well, I guess we lost." Tuchel very much doesn't strike me as enigmatic in the same sense or as eccentric as Conte. Thing is, ultimately, it's probably fun to watch as a neutral. I don't really care. If I'm completely honest, I care about the result and what happens on the pitch. I mean, it's funny to watch Conte wind up Tuchel, but had we lost 3-1, I'd be like, I don't give a shit about that. That's the bottom line for me. It's great Conte's very passionate about it because we know that's how Conte is as a person. But at the same time, I think, you having a row with Tuchel, I don't care, really, if I'm honest. But I get why some people do. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, go to the pub, have a pint and whatever together, hold hands, have a cuddle, get over it,
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, before I'll come to you next, Paul. Tuchel and Conte, both great managers in my opinion. Brilliant. And what happened added to sort of like the spice of the game and how it finished, didn't it, Paul? What do you reckon? Do you reckon it's all a bit too much, or do you think it's just great to see two blokes at the sort of height of their profession, caring so much about what's going on?
No, the latter. I agree with you about that. I want them to be emotional. I want this as well. An emotional race on Sunday. I think on the pod, or maybe one of you guys said it on the YouTube on Monday night. The dugouts are very close to each other at Stamford Bridge. It's a horrible stadium. It's just take a drone strike in on it and start again, basically. And it's very claustrophobic, and if you've got someone like Conte jumping up and down next to you for 90 minutes, and he didn't sit down all game. He didn't sit down next to Mason all game. We noticed that. It's going to wind you up, and then like Tuchel's doing his bit as well. And it's just I loved it. I loved it. I've got no problem with it at all. And they're professional enough and experienced enough to know that next time they see each other at the stadium, it'll probably be just as feisty, but maybe not with the extra physicalities of it. But no, I've got no problem with it at all. I think it's good. It was an emotional place, emotional game, 2 emotional characters at the top of the game. Yeah, crack on.
Yeah, happy to see it, Craig.
Oh mate, I loved it. Yeah, I was all in for it, similar to you guys. And I just think the difference was, again, that was going off the sideline, the passion, and it was kicking off, but the team never lost their heads. So I didn't get a sense that the team lost their heads at any point. Yes, it was feisty. Yes, there was flare-ups and the occasional gathering of players together. But it never, I'll just go back to the Battle of the Bridge a couple of seasons ago when we lost through the lead to Leicester. Our heads went. There's a level of maturity now that exists within the squad, and that's, I think, down to Conte in large parts, if not all the part. And it doesn't, Conte, I do believe, as you both said, 2 great managers, and Conte, everything he does for a reason. Him rallying up on the sidelines there is as much sending a message to the players, I think, about getting up for it, or raising their game, or raising their levels, or whatever it is. And I think it just works. And the fact we've got, I think, Jason, we've got a draw out of it, so it makes it even sweeter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And brilliant.
We were more galvanised this time. The Battle of the Bridge, we lost our heads, but this time it galvanised us a bit more, didn't it? And I think, like James said, he is right. If we'd have lost, maybe we were like, "Oh, this is all pathetic. We've come here, played crap. Just get on with it."
Yeah,
get back. But
there's this. I always think with great teams, there's the thing you see is this. It's just like a siege mentality. That we're in this together, the world against us type of thing. Yeah, and that's what I'm loving about this at the moment. Everyone hates Tottenham, and I love it because it's like we'll take all that, and we'll take that the negative energy that exists around externally to us, and we'll harness that, and we'll use it to go and achieve what we want to achieve this season. And I love that. There's a real camaraderie to the team. I think I would even go as far as saying it's stronger than Prime Poch.
It's sort of looking that way, isn't it?
Yeah, the togetherness of the team and the camaraderie and the spirits. And we've just got better characters.
Belief as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's down to the characters, I think. The Højbjergs of this world, the Bentancurs, the Perisics of this world, the Richarlisons. We've got the right characters, and that's the difference.
The only thing I would have liked Conte to do, and I'd have took him having a 3 or a 5 match ban for it, was I'd have loved to have seen him drop the nut on Azpilicueta. That would have really topped.
There's some great. Have you seen? If anyone's not go on Twitter and have a look at some of the videos and everything that have been created and the little cartoons that have been created.
Yeah,
there's one with Romero and Conte, and they're absolutely going to town on some of the Chelsea players and Tuchel, and it's just been a great week for memes and everything else in social media.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think anybody who follows me on, sorry, mate. I think anybody who follows me on Twitter knows I've got like top 5 punchable faces. And unfortunately, Richarlison is still there in my top 5 along with Mikel Arteta. But I tell you what, Cesar Azpilicueta.
Oh, mate.
It's just made a surprise appearance at number 5 because after seeing him in the way he acts on Sunday, it's like, would I take a 5-match ban run on here now and just rugby tackle him and get him into a rear naked choke and just like turn his gas off? Mate, the guy's an utter bellend. He really is.
Yeah.
He's the captain. He whines about
everything. He's always like it. He's like it all the time, mate. Spot on. Anyway, we're 54 minutes in. We were only going to have a little chat about the Chelsea game. So that was good. We hadn't even mentioned the goals with the players we hadn't mentioned. So, right, what we're going to go on to now, a little bit of transfer chat. First one, not really a Spurs. Well, obviously, Dele, not a Spurs player anymore. Chat today that he's off to Besiktas. Basically, Everton has said, down to you, mate. Do what you want, permanent or loan. James, how do you feel about that? Do you think do you feel a little bit sad, or do you think it's just somebody who's let their career go down the toilet?
It's a dreadful move for him. He shouldn't go to bloody Besiktas, should he? The thing with Dele is a player doesn't lose their ability to play football. I said it about Harry Winks. A player doesn't lose their ability to play football like overnight, right? You don't lose your ability to kick a ball good, right? That's not unless you're football, obviously. That's not what happens, right? A lot of negative isn't really alright. A lot of shit happened to him, like being held at knife point. The video of him with, I presume, his girlfriend came out. Don't need to talk about that. But those sorts of things happened to him, and I think that messes with your head, right? It would mess with anyone's head. And I do wonder if it's very much just a case of he lost a bit of his confidence. And I know from people who were at Spurs on the training grounds that apparently he always tried really hard at Spurs training, and it just didn't seem to work for him. There was something in the back of his mind, overthinking something that it wasn't all right. So he's obviously got the ability. He obviously doesn't have a lack of want for it. I don't think Everton was a great move for him. I don't think Besiktas would be a good move for him. I mean, he's not a Spurs player, but I still want him to do well as a player. I think really, honestly, he'd be better off going to a top championship side. He'd be better off going somewhere like there, like a Norwich, right? Like someone who's going to dominate the championship realistically, a top 6 championship side where he can respectfully play people who are much worse than him at football, build up his confidence again, come up. I don't think going to the middle of nowhere in Turkey is really the best move for him, if I'm being completely honest. Even if he was going to go abroad, I think Spain might suit him a little bit better. In terms of a fee for Spurs, we're owed 25% of what Everton sell him for, but what's that going to be? 10 grand? Brilliant. That's what, 5 minutes of wages for one of our players or something. It's really, the fee is negligible to Spurs at this point. It's got nothing to do with Spurs. It's just about me caring about a football player doing well, if anything. Because I don't think we're going to get anything really for him. So it's sad, not a good move for him. Hope he doesn't take it. He deserves better for himself.
Yeah, so Paul, obviously, I had a bit of a soft spot for Dele when he first came in. It was brilliant. It's when my son started supporting Spurs, and he absolutely worshipped Dele. And the first game I ever took him to was at White Hart Lane. We won 3-0. Dele scored. Was it 3-0? Dele scored. Alderweireld scored, and Lamela scored. But I can remember it just getting to a point with Dele where I was like, "This is he's gone." And, I know people are like, he just needs his confidence back and that. But I'm like, no, there's something far more deep-rooted in this than the loss of confidence. We spoke earlier and I said to you, there's like the old saying, isn't there, that you don't become a bad player overnight. But I pretty much think he did. I think, he just lost it. What were your thoughts on it, mate?
I was unbelievably proud of Dele, the club, and what Pochettino did with Dele. Unbelievably proud. We got this kid from Milton Keynes. As you know, Milton Keynes is like a bit of a hole, and we've this kid who's had a bad, difficult upbringing, etc., and he's made it to the very, very top and played for England, did very, very well. Dele's synonymous with like some of the best times of the Pochettino and what we did. All right, so
100%, mate.
I'll have nothing bad said about Dele. I think when we started to try and change our system a little bit from playing, certainly under Mourinho, and we saw from documentary how Mourinho did kind of throw a little Dele under the bus a little bit. That probably didn't help his situation at all. There was the outside stuff with the robbery, which James talked about. We talked about earlier off air and stuff, and that kind of stuff just probably knocked him. The outside stuff as well. I don't care he plays Fortnite. I don't care that he makes more money from Boohoo than he did from Tottenham. I don't care. I cared about what he brought to the football field. And unfortunately, when we changed system to a more kind of 2 or 3 up front, and he couldn't make those late kind of like number 10, number 9.5 runs, he didn't really fit. He didn't evolve as a footballer. He didn't evolve to a Mourinho entered involved to. Mourinho threw him under the bus, and he threw him under the bus publicly on an Amazon documentary. Which is not fair for anybody. 20-year-old, 22, 23-year-old kid from Milton Keynes, or a 30-year-old experienced professional from overseas. It doesn't matter. So that was bad. I don't think he should go to Besiktas. I don't, but I don't know. I agree with James. I think a top kind of a Norwich or a Bournemouth or somebody like that, okay, would really, really suit him. But it's down to him. The drop off has been shocking. It's generally like, it's just going to fight a relegation battle with Lampard last season wasn't right, was
stupid.
It was stupid. It was like I don't know if it was Ollie, Harvey, or whatever his name is, his manager or his agents. I know he's got a good agent at IMG. I don't know who was telling him what to do, but to tell him to go to Lampard in Everton when he's going to be he's not going to play. He's going to be sat next to Alon, and they've just taken Van der Beek on loan as well. What the hell was he? Who was advising him at that point? Because that was a bad move. So that's a further negative thing that's happened to him. He didn't play. He didn't really help himself going there as well. Besiktas, no. I wouldn't like him to go there. Sorry, boys, Karen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. I was just going to say, the problem with Dele is he's very much a specific kind of player, right? Yeah. He would play behind Kane and he would come in to the box late. That kind of player isn't really something you see in a lot of top European teams now. So I wonder if some of it is just the role he plays is being phased out and obsolete. Like, can you tell me a top European team that plays with that kind of second striker player? Because we don't, City don't, Liverpool don't, Madrid don't. I wonder if part of it is solely that for him to excel, he needs to play in a very specific type of team to facilitate what he's best at. Like, I do remember he played games for us, like when we battered Liverpool at Wembley 4-1. He was playing in like more of a box-to-box role, and he played well, right? Maybe part of it was the role he was playing was wrong at times. It kind of had become obsolete. Maybe if as a manager you sat down and you said, look, the role you used to, that kind of second striker role where you score a lot of goals, that's not really important in football anymore. I know it's a bit of a hot take, but I'm a purist. And he said, look, we're going to play deeper as a box-to-box player. You're going to have to tackle. You're going to have to track back. You're going to have a bit of bite to you. Maybe that could suit him. But again, he lost that little bit of bite. So almost the role he could have naturally transitioned into evaded him because of his mentals. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think I don't think it's just one. I don't think there's just one issue, mate. I think there's lots and lots. Craig, what do you think?
No, I agree with everything that's been said. I think for me, the Everton move was a ridiculous move for him, but I don't think he had any alternatives. Teams weren't knocking on the door to take him. From everything we don't know the ins and outs of everything that's going on, but I don't believe that would have been his first choice if he could. I think I'm just so grateful. Similar to Paul, there's so much good about Dele and the memories we have of Dele in that era with Poch when he was at his peak, and I'm so happy that we've seen Dele in a Spurs shirt in those best years, what seemed to be the best years of his career. I hope that he proves us wrong and he goes on and he emulates something near that again somewhere else. But wherever he goes next, whether it's Besiktas, whether it's a championship side, the system's got to be the right one for him. So it's what James has said. He's got to go into a team which play with that sort of behind the striker role. And if he can do that and get confidence back, then I hope he can come some way back. But I love Dele. I love everything he symbolises in terms of that era at Spurs, and I'm just so grateful that he will look back in years and he will be one of the greats for them few seasons. What he did and some of the magic he produced for us, and we'll look back at him very fondly.
He was an outsider. He was an outsider. He was, we all know the problems. A lot of kids don't know their dad and have difficult upbringings and stuff, and. He's one of the guys in Milton Keynes family took him and stuff like that, but he actually, like, through sheer talent and through sheer will, got got to move to an elite club in Tottenham from Milton Keynes Dons, and then he played for England. He proved a lot of doubters wrong. And then I think maybe, and I don't know, and this is a bit of kind of COD psychology, but once you've kind of become more kind of established, you think, well, what else have I got to do now? I'm financially set. It's a little bit like Tanguy and Ndombele. Tanguy and Ndombele from Spurs are going to be financially set for the rest of his life now with the deal that we got him. So maybe with like the boohoo stuff and all the other kind of extracurricular stuff, as well as Tottenham, he feels like he's made it. And then therefore, the edginess and the need to prove himself to the naysayers and the doubters is like, well, that bit of fuel, that bit of kind of like that catalyst inside me, that's gone a bit. I don't know. I mean, that's a little bit kind of like me looking from the outside. But I mean, I coach people. I try and make them better. And looking at that, maybe that kind of little thing that made Dele a bit different and made him a spiteful little arsehole that left the foot in the tackle, but also drove him to take a game and to try a little flick and stuff that came off and Kane scored or he scored. Once that's gone, what is really left? Do you know?
Yeah.
And that could be completely wrong.
No, mate. I think what we've sort of gauged from what everybody's said is that, you know, Dele will always symbolise that period where I think for the first time for quite a long time that we'd all sort of everybody felt part of the club. And you know, we were riding a crest of a wave. The manager loved being there. The players loved being there. And he was a massive part of that. But unfortunately, we can all put our opinions in, can't we? But I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of what has happened, why it's happened. And we just, you know, wish him all the best. Hopefully he goes somewhere else, can kickstart his career and hopefully, you know, get himself playing again and being happy. And if you know what? And if he goes to Besiktas, like you said, Paul, he's set for life, mate. If he goes there and he thinks, you know what, I don't want this anymore. I'm 24. I'll move into do something else. I've made my money. I've had a good career. He's had good times at Spurs. Fair play to him. At the end of the day, if he knocks it all on the head, but he's happy, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Agreed. Absolutely.
So you know, we'll move on from him. And the next one is obviously we made our 7th signing, Destiny Udogie. James, you got any info on this guy? Anything you can hit us with some knowledge?
I brought it up last time, Destiny. He has, I think, the most goals and assists from his position in his league. In terms of other numbers, I think defensively he's a lot better than Reggie. I would have to check specifically to quote you specific numbers, which, do you know what? I'm going to let someone else talk while I get my spreadsheet up, and then you can come back to me. So while I get my specific numbers. Yeah,
I'll go to Craig because I think Paul, Craig, sort of like delved into it a bit. Cess, they're obviously playing in the same position. This guy's gone back to Udinese on loan. So Cess has got to be looking over his shoulder this year, hasn't he? Because this kid looks like he's going to be a top player.
Yeah, it's what I like about it's an astute signing from Spurs, and I think it's a really clever sign. We've got a player that's clearly on an upward trajectory. He is going to be a top. It's a couple of things for me. One, he's clearly been built with the left wing back role in mind, which gives me confidence that Conte is not going anywhere soon. He's bought into the longer term project at Spurs because you know, we're not going to see him this season. He's going to come back next season. But I think it also shows that there's a clear transfer strategy at place at Tottenham at the moment. You know, Perisic has been brought in as that short term gap, if you like, to fill to bring on Cess. He'll go. In comes Destiny alongside Cess, and suddenly we've got 2 really good young left wing backs. You know, it's just an astute signing. I'm not going to sit here and say I know loads and loads about him. I've seen the reels on YouTube like everyone else has, and
that's what we do, mate.
Well, exactly, yeah, that's it. And I've read the various different articles that have been written on the guy, and he clearly is an up and coming. I just love the fact that we're getting players. We go back to the Spurs when we were signing these young, exciting players, the Delis in this world, and bringing them into the club and getting their best years. And I'm really excited about what Destiny could potentially be for us.
Yeah, mate. I'm totally with you. Like obviously the YouTube thing is like how middle-aged men like me, you and Paul, find out what these players are like, isn't it?
I think James goes to TikTok. I think.
Yeah. James probably hacked.
James, I'll come to you in a minute. You can hit us with what you got, but I'll just Paul, like you said earlier about Destiny. What are your hopes for him? Because I think that I'm hoping by the time he comes to us, he could be an established Italian squad member, and he's only 19.
He's only 19, exactly. Spence probably bought the best player from the Championship. We're going to other clubs now, and we are taking their best players. We took Romero from Atlanta. I know we haven't bought Romero yet, but we took him from Atlanta, and now we are going to take this guy who looks like he's got the potential to be very, very good. As you say, could be a full Italian international. It shows that Paratici is looking forward as well as now. We all know that Conte likes to work in the now. If Conte's saying, as Craig has alluded to there, is like, you want someone for the next 2-3 years, is that a sign of like Conte seeing something here that, 2024, 25, 2024 and 25, we could be like, we could be even better than we are now? Or is it Paratici just thinking, right, I've got to like look to the future as well as getting like Conte what he wants now? Don't know. I don't think anybody knows, but it's exciting. It's good that we can go and flex our muscles and go and say, right, we want him, and we're getting them, which is great. I mean, I've got to admit, I don't look at YouTube because I think it could be edited in a way to make Tonga and Dombe look like a world beater.
Well, it did. That's what it did, mate.
It did, yeah. And we went 60 million large on such a video, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, we get to see Spence. I think he's injured at the moment, but I think Spence to me looks almost Premiership ready, in my opinion. And and he's got parallels to Delhi as well. It's just as I think Craig was saying, there's like, we buy the guy, but we leave him at his club for him to like play. We don't do over the club. We don't take their best young talent. We don't leave them in a lurch, etc. And all that can be is good for their development as well. They play football. They don't sit, on the bench here. They carry on their kind of progression and development. And then like come pre-season next year, when we're league champions, he can come into a league championship.
Yeah, mate. Like I said, we don't really know what's going to come of it, but like Craig says, it looks like we've got some sort of strategy. So, James, Destiny Udogie, tell us about him.
So, quick TLDR. What you're looking for in a wing?
Sorry, just go quick. What? I'm 50 years old. What does that mean?
TLDR, too long didn't read. It's a shortened version of the statement. It's a summary. Too long didn't read. That's what it means. So a quick shortened explanation.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Good. Glad to hear that, mate. So you bloody boomers. Right. A quick shortened explanation of what you're looking for in a wing back. Predominantly is progressive carries. So, they've got the ball and they've ran forward with it, taking it forward. You're looking at expected assists and non-penalty XG and shot-creating actions. Those are the main things. Obviously, defensive things like tackles, blah, blah, blah. That's nice as well. So when we look at, let's just compare Destiny to Ryan Sessegnon, for example. Okay, how many progressive carries does Sessegnon do per 90? 4.24. How many does Destiny do? 4.91. Keep in mind, Sessegnon's playing in a better team. So he's been beaten by Destiny in a weaker team. You might want to look at something like pass completion, which is how often their passes actually find the person they're trying to pass to and aren't intercepted. Sessegnon, it's 74% of the time. Destiny, it's 80% of the time. Let's look at shot creating actions. So that's how many passes that directly or dribbles that directly lead to a shot taking place. Ryan Sessegnon, that's 1.7. For Destiny, it's 2.14. So he's doing more things that lead to shots, which obviously create goals taking place. When we look at non-penalty goals per 90, it's 0.08 for Ryan Sessegnon, which is still in the top 77% in Europe. But for Destiny, it's 0.18, which is in the top 3% in Europe. Non-penalty XG.
Top 3%, James. Top 3% of people in his position.
In his position, yeah. Sorry, I should have clarified.
Thank you.
We look at Destiny in his position, wing-back position. Non-penalty XG 0.14 is in the top 1% in his position, wing-backs. And in general, he takes a shot a game. Sessegnon takes 0.69 shots per game. So Destiny's also taking a lot more shots a game. If we look at progressive, I already mentioned progressive carries. Progressive passes, 2.5 a game. Sessegnon takes slightly more at 2.77. Sessegnon broadly is a bit better defensively, with the exception of tackles, where Destiny completes 2.7 tackles, whereas Sessegnon completes 2.3 tackles. So what we're seeing here, there's a moth flying around. What we're broadly seeing here is that Destiny is better going forward and creating chances in these situations. The defensive deficiencies he has, I believe, if Conte is here next season, which I pray, then he can improve on those. That's not as big a deal. Underlying stats-wise, admittedly in Serie A, a weaker league, you could argue, Destiny has better output attacking-wise, which is something we're all kind of saying we lack in our fullbacks, right?
Well, like Emerson is case in point there, isn't it? He's a good defender, but we want him to be better higher up the pitch, and he doesn't have that sort of ability where you're saying in your stats, mate, that like Destiny, when he gets up the top end of the pitch, he delivers more than he's what our wing backs do that we've got.
Well, when you look at his non-penalty XG for a wing back, he's in the top 1%. And you look at his non-penalty goals for his position, he's in the top 3%. These are really, really good numbers for a young player. Top 3%, top 1% in Europe.
Are they better than Reece James? Who are they better than Reece James's?
Do you want me to get Reece James' stats up?
Because I'm just thinking about if anyone can put a cross in like Reece James did at the weekend on the run. And then
mate, that was unreal.
That I seriously, the speed that ball came across, and he didn't break stride. I thought that was in. I thought that was in that guy. Reece James, I think, is a wing back. Is that I think it's obviously Trent, but Trent's playing a more kind of freer role at the moment under Klopp. But Reece James, I'd love a player like him. Jesus Christ!
I was saying on Monday's show that obviously I'm talking about right wing back, but why can't we so we're looking at if I'm looking at that, you're looking at Destiny saying that. He's more in that mould of Reece James over on the left, but surely I think I don't know if we'll go too deep into it. Right wing back is still a bit of an issue for us. Surely there's somebody out there, maybe not as good as Reece James because he's quality. There's got to be someone out there in the same mould or someone who can be in that mould who can be improved. I know maybe Jed Spence we're thinking, but maybe somebody more for now that we could get in because. He is a fantastic player. Like when that cross he put in was literally on the run, and it was on the money, wasn't it? I mean, Kane, can you imagine Kane? Like if we were whipping balls in, Kane and Son would be loving that, wouldn't they? It was literally the keeper. There's nothing the keeper could do. It's just on the forward to put that in the back of the net. If you got that,
the pace of the cross just takes Lloris out of the equation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got no chance. Have you got that, James? The Reece James
stats
comparisons? Yeah.
I mean, so here's the interesting thing. Reece James defensively is way worse than all of our fullbacks, whatever you want to say. He's in like a really low percentiles for players in his position. He's in the bottom 3% for fullbacks, wingbacks, for interceptions, etc. Sorry, there's a fly on my monitor. It's really annoying me. But when you look at his attacking numbers, like non-penalty goals per 90, he's in the top 1% for his numbers. It's 0.25 as opposed to 0.08 for Sessegnon or 0.18 for Destiny, which is much closer, but still not as close. All of Reece James's attacking stats are in the top 3% for wingbacks in Europe. As are most of his progressive passes, progressive carries. All those stats are really, really impressive. His defensive numbers are, to put it bluntly, shit. They're all in the bottom half of players of wingbacks in Europe. So he's very good at play going forward, but defensively he's pretty shocking. I mean, 2 tackles per 90. That's dreadful. I mean, Sessegnon's doing over that comfortably, and he's pretty bad defensively, right? Like Emerson, I think, is doing near a 4. The thing here I would stress is if you want a player like Destiny, you're really looking for a winger, not a fullback. What we're seeming to trying to do is sign fullbacks who can play as wingbacks. Whereas if you want a guy who's really, really good going forward because we can dominate the ball, then what you want to do is you want to put a winger in that position. The problem with Antonio Conte, which in fairness is kind of why we signed Perisic, right? He was a winger who's dropped back, taken a deep position. He's adopted that position, which would kind of make sense why we signed Perisic. And I'm sure if I had Perisic's stats in front of me right now, which I could get, his numbers would be probably better than Reece James's in a number of ways. The thing I'll say about Reece James is he benefits massively from playing in a system at Chelsea where they have a deep line creative midfielder who can give him the ball in positions where he can create. Whereas I think a lot of our wingers, fullbacks, because they're the ones doing the ball progression, they don't have as easy a task. I mean, just pretend you're playing a game of football, right? And you get the ball passed to you, past a defender, you're a wing back, you're running through, and you have virtually no one in front of you, 5-10 yards deep for crossing. Well, what you've done is you've created a shot creating action, you've done a progressive carry, and you've done a progressive pass in some form or another to make the stats look better, which Jorginho tends to do a fair bit for Chelsea, whereas we don't have the player who does that for us. So part of me does wonder how inflated Reece James's stats are. The thing I will add is he's pretty shit defensively. Whereas our fullbacks are at least better defensively. And that just kind of comes with contrasting styles, right? Conte's got that traditional Italian Catenaccio, more defensive kind of approach to football. So it's hard to draw conclusions solely from statistics, much like statistics. Yeah. There are three kinds of lies, damn lies, and statistics. So, but
I mean, that's like, give us, obviously we don't really know a lot about Destiny, do we? So anyway, just to go around the panel to finish on Destiny, Craig, decent signing, or should we be signing like players ready for now?
No, I think as I said, he's part of an overall strategy. I genuinely, I have faith in Paratici and Conte and the work that they're doing. And I've never been able to say that about Tottenham's transfer strategy previously, but I do have faith. Someone made a comment in the chat about we should have used the money to buy a left centre back and an attacking midfielder. I don't buy that. I don't think it was that much money in the first place in the scheme of things. But secondly, we will buy. There's when we come to buying a left centre back, the reason we've signed Lingley is because we couldn't get our first choice, second choice, or third choice left centre back. So we've gone for Lingley on a loan. It's smart business. So people keep talking about signing left centre back. Unless one of our top 2 or 3 targets miraculously become available in the next couple of weeks of the window, we're not going to sign left centre back. Forget it. I've talked on here previously about the attacking midfielder. And my belief that actually, whilst I understand the clamour for wanting an attacking midfielder and the benefit it can bring, I just don't see it as a priority unless the right one comes along. So talking about Madders coming is not going to happen. I'm sure we'll get onto that. But
yeah, we're going to get onto that in a minute, mate.
In essence, the signing, this is an astute signing. It's a clever signing, and it's one that is one for the future. And it's great. I love it.
So
Catenaccio literally means an Italian door bolt. If you didn't know.
Yeah, here's one. Look, I'm getting deep, man. I don't know much about Destiny. Paul, what do you reckon then, mate? Decent signing. Happy with that? Happy with us doing business like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's part of the strategy. As Craig has mentioned. Perisic is going to be around for another year, 18 months, 2 years tops. That will leave with Cess and hopefully Udogie. Is it Udogie or is it Udogie? Is it?
I think it's Udogie, but
let's call it.
People are saying Udogie. A couple of weeks ago, it was Udogie, so I've just called him Destiny. Okay, I thought it.
Okay, but yeah, it's part of it. I'm very happy. I'm very happy. I mean, it means that I'm going to have to watch a little bit more Italian football. So what? It's not the greatest league in the world. It's a little bit slow for my liking at times, but
you can pick your games at least, mate, can't you?
Exactly, mate. Exactly, boss. Yeah, that's what I do. But no, I'm up for this signing. I think, as you say, he's going to be an international. And only Perisic is better than him in a wing back position last season. So we got him. So we'll take the number 2 as well. Thanks very much. Next.
And you saying you're going to have to watch a little bit more Italian football, Paul. That leads me into our next outgoing, who looks like he's moving to Italy, Tanguy Ndombele. Will you be watching more Italian football to see how he's getting on?
No. Next question. No, absolutely not. I cannot wait for this guy to get off our books. I've spoken a lot about Tanguy Ndombele. I've been there when he's played quite well. I've been there when he's been absolutely awful, and I was at the game when he took like 15 minutes to walk off. in the FA Cup, I think it was.
Yeah.
No, was it?
We're not going to go to James yet. We're going to let him cool down now. You brought that up.
I could cool down. Yeah, Tonga and Domblay. I don't like it when people don't make the most of their potential. And Tonga and Domblay's not made a third, in my opinion, of his potential, and it's a waste. It's a waste of our money. It's a waste of our time. And it's a waste of his time and his effort. Well, what little effort he's put in. So yeah, I'm very glad that he's going to eat. Hopefully, with Italy. Very glad.
Craig, we need to get him out of our training ground, don't we? He's obviously not wanted around the place. Napoli's a decent move for him. I think they're in the Champions League, so if there's a buy option in there, isn't there? So if he can perform and they'll buy him, going to be best for all parties, isn't it? But obviously, don't want to get into it too much because we keep going there. But
yeah, I agree. I'm just the frustrations I have, and it shows a lot about our failings in the transfer market that we're struggling to get these off our books permanently. These loans are just going on, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ndombele sees his contract out of us on loans season after season after season. I really wouldn't. But it's everything that Paul said. I completely concur with. I just want him off the books permanently. I don't want these loans. I don't want to see him come back next summer, and I don't want to see Lo Celso come back either. Next summer, they need to be gone.
Yeah, no, mate. I was going to move on to Lo Celso leaving, going to James. I don't want to put him through the Ndombele talk again because it's obviously hurts him.
I can make actually an intelligent comment about Ndombele going to Napoli. I don't really know where he fits in because they already have players like Fabian Ruiz and
he's going, and Fabian's going.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
That makes a bit more sense because they already have players like Zielinski who kind of play a similar-ish role, but Napoli ever since Sarri have kind of played a similar, the same-ish way. Italy definitely suits him more than England. I still think the better move for him would have been somewhere in Spain, but do you know what? If we sell him for bugger all, it gets 200k off our books, and the remainder of his contract would be like 30 million or something. So if we sign for 10 million. Just get him gone. Get the wages off our books. If it means we take basically no money,
James. Huge loss.
It is.
Yeah,
but sometimes you've just got to cut your losses and accept the shittery of it. I mean,
apparently,
we're not going to
apparently, James. Apparently, Napoli will be paying a large chunk of his wages, which I'm quite surprised at because I didn't think anybody would pay a large chunk of his wages, but apparently they are. And I think the buy option's about 30. I don't know if it's £30 million or 30 million euros. We just need him. I mean, we're all giving him a slating, rightfully so, but I think we just need him to go there and play well, don't we? So they'll take up that option. That's what we're all desperate for. I
will say, if Daniel Levy has managed to get Napoli to pay 30 million in an optional fee and the majority of his wages, then Daniel Levy is a business fucking wizard. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, he's really not bloody worth that. Yeah. But do you know what? I hope he does all right. As much as I may have gone on angry rants about him, he's a person after all. He's a football player. He obviously wasn't happy playing here, so I hope he does all right. Lo Celso, always runs about Villarreal because he went on loan. Again, Spain seems to suit him way more than the Prem. I think he's actually a good player.
I agree.
And in some ways, he offers different things than our current midfielders do because he does a lot of progressive carrying, gets the ball dribbles. I do think it's a shame it never works out for him at Spurs because I genuinely think he could have been a good player. And he's not a player who I perceive to be lazy or anything. He genuinely seemed like he did want it to work. And he's Argentinian. He's got that bit of fuckhousery about him that I love. He's got that bit of, all right, you've taken the ball off me. I'm just going to kick you. Right? I love that in a Spurs player. I love that South American passion. But, I don't really know. I don't pay much attention to the Spanish market, unfortunately, so I'm useless in this conversation. But
you're never useless, mate.
He's not on as big as wages as Ndombele, so it's less urgent, I guess. But hope he gets a decent move. Hope he does all right because he's a good player. And you never know. Maybe in the Champions League he'll knock out Chelsea or something.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Paul, Lo Celso, same sort of situation. I agree with James. There is a player in there, but whether there's a Spurs player in there, I'm not 100% sure. rumours that he was a bit of an arsehole around the training ground, weren't there? But I mean,
yeah, just about to say that. I was just about to say that he seemingly his personality rubbed a few people out the wrong way. He played well just pre-lockdown. He had a run of games, wasn't he? Craig, was it 4 or 6 games? I think he played really, really well, and he looked useful, and he was like making kind of like runs and progressive ball carrier, dribbling, creating things, put people into it. Creating nice passing angles for people that other people didn't really see, and etc. So I thought, hello, here we go. And then obviously lockdown happened, COVID, etc., and then it just didn't really work out. I wish him all the very, very best, because I think he's a good player. I think he deserves to play at a high level. I think he's tried to make more of an effort than Tango and Ndombele. He's tried to make some effort as opposed to Tango and Ndombele. So yeah, all the best. All the best.
Like they're the two that we need. I think those two were going to be the two difficult ones to shift, just because Tongi for the obvious, and people are going to be like, Spurs are desperate to get rid of him. We can wait, we can offer this and that. We've obviously got Winks and Reguilon left in that type of position. Other clubs sort of know that other clubs know that we want rid of those. So I can't see those two move until sort of like transfer deadline day, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I thought Reggie would. I thought there'd be plenty of suitors and plenty of like people interested in Reggie, but it's very, very quiet, isn't it?
I just wonder, Paul, whether teams are playing us at our own game a little bit.
Yeah.
We used to do the same thing. You drag it out, wait to that point. They know that we need to sell these players, because they're not going to make it into we're too bloated. They're not going to make it into the Premier League squad. They're not going to make it into the Champions League squad. So if they're not sold, they're sitting ducks. So they will go, and I think they'll go for ridiculous money. Didn't I read somewhere today that we've turned down a really low bid or something for Winks of 3 million or something? Did I read that somewhere? I don't know, they'll go. They'll go deadline day. They'll be really, really cheap.
Everton needs a midfielder, because the Corey went out, but I think he's got.
He went injured again, didn't he?
Great.
I think Everton still feel burned from the Delhi signing, to be honest.
Good point, well made.
I agree with you. I think those, if everybody knows that we want rid of those two, so I think they can just wait for them. We'll just carry on with a few possible outgoings before we get into who we could possibly get in. Do you think, obviously, Rodon's gone, with Dyer out now? I'm not Dyer, sorry, with Romero out now, which we sort of said it isn't too big a deal. Do you think we'll let Tanganga go? Because I think we need 6 centre-backs. We definitely need 6 centre-backs if we're playing with 3 at the back. So do you think Tanganga stays, or do you think he goes?
I think he stays, and I think he stays because he's homegrown as well. Yeah. I think that's one thing we need. Yeah. So he'll stay. And Paul, I think he'll play as well, by the way. He'll play his fair share games.
Tanganga's Jaffet. I like Jaffet. I think he might not be the most skillful, but you cannot deny his application. He's an athlete as well. When you see him at the lane, he plays right back. So when in the first half he's on my side of the ground, and the kid is an athlete. I mean, he's good. I love when he started to Wilf, and then Wilf got himself sent off at Palace. I love that about him as well. He's got a really good rapport. He's a local lad and all that stuff. But even on top of that as well, he's homegrown. He's Premiership quality. He's also not going to be first, maybe even not second choice, but he's more than adequate backup. And definitely keep him around.
Yeah, James, do you agree? Do you think he stays around even if we do get in another centre back?
If we get in another, maybe not. I think the thing with him is it's just about the right move, because I don't think the club wants to let him go permanently. I think the club, if anything, would on loan. Problem is, I don't see the right move necessarily arising for him. So yeah, he probably does stay. I think a good move for him would be somewhere like Norwich or Brighton, but I don't think that happens. I don't know if we necessarily get someone else in, because Romano's out for such a short period of time. If he was out for 5 months, then I think we definitely would. But he's out for such a short period of time. I can't see that happening, really. I think he sticks around. He is homegrown. He's definitely a future Ledley King, isn't he? I mean, even though Joe Rodon's a better football player, because Joe Rodon is actually the greatest centre-back at Spurs, changed my mind. But You know,
You have some respect for your elders, James. You just have some respect for your elders. All right.
Joe Rodon is a legend, and I will not have Joe Rodon slander. I mean, maybe Ben Davies is better. I'll accept that, but I'm not having Joe Rodon slander here. He's a legend, but you know, yeah, I can't see Tanganga going anywhere. Really.
I mean, I'm not convinced on Tanganga, but I don't think he'll be going anywhere. I'm just not sure, mate. I think he's had a lot of injuries for a young lad, and then he, you know, just when I sort of watch it, I mean, I think I don't know how I'm going to try and put it. He just whenever Man City, he was fantastic. First game of last season, he was fantastic. But then after that, it was as if his confidence seemed to go down. And by the time we got to Chelsea, that period in January where we played against Chelsea, he just looked shot to bits. So what I would like to see, I'd like to see him go on loan somewhere where he plays every week and get a full season playing every week in the Premier League or at a top championship, so we can actually see what he's about, see where his best position is, and he can just gain that confidence of playing, because I don't think he'll play many games. I know, Craig, you said you thought he would, but I don't think he'll play enough games.
He'll play in those cup games. He'll play in those cup games, you know, and I've got no doubt about that, certainly in the early rounds, and he'll get his opportunities. But it's up to him then. He's got to take it. We talked about the squad need to step up when they get their opportunities, and that's the thing this season, isn't it? When these players come in, these squad players come in, they've got to up their game and they've got to make a case.
I just think he needs to play game after game after game after game, prove he can stay fit, prove that he's competent. And if he's going to be a centre half, get in there, play some games, show us what you're all about. And I just don't think he'll get that repetition or that amount of games at Spurs to be able to do that. So when he comes in, I think he might always just be a little bit, you know, is this going to be my only game? And then am I not going to be playing for 3 or 4 games?
I don't disagree with the, you know, in an ideal world, you would potentially look to get him below where he plays every single game. But the reality is we can't afford, for the reasons we've talked about, to let him go because of the homegrown quota. So, you know, that unless we're going to bring in a centre-back who's homegrown to replace him, which I don't see that happening, you know, I don't see it. I just don't see it happening, which is unfortunate for him in a way.
Mate, partly it's to do with Spurs. I think you know, he needs games, but you know, I mean, there was talk today. Did you see that we were linked to some lad who's been playing for Blackburn at centre?
Oh yeah, 17-year-old, wasn't it?
Right.
17-year-old. I don't know anything about him. I've seen that.
I know nothing about. I don't really tend to like. Why are we're shopping at kind of like Harvey Nicks and a little bit of Harrods? Why would we go down to Aldi all of a sudden? I mean, I mean that the biggest respect, but I don't really understand why we're being linked with that guy. I mean, on Spurs play now, you can watch our under-20s, under-23s, Fagan, Walcott, and these guys that they're half decent at centre back. You know, we don't need to be going looking for another 17-year-old. I understand this kind of reports give. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's got a lot of substance to it, mate. It's just something that came up on the socials today. And
okay.
And I just saw it. So, and I think the actual report was from the Daily Mail. So may as well. I should have just like
Daily Mail.
Yeah, scroll
right up in there and
without trying to piss anyone off. The only thing the Daily Mail's good for is wiping your fucking arse with. So don't take it seriously.
Do they still do a paper copy?
Yeah. Papers, mate, I still buy a newspaper every day.
Good lad.
I'm 19. I buy a real newspaper from the shop.
Oh, that's what I like to see.
No one, yeah.
I like to see old school.
I bet you buy the Guardian, don't you, James?
No, I do not. I buy a real newspaper.
Oh,
if you can guess in the comments which newspaper I buy every day, I'll give you a clap. I'll give you a clap.
Anyway, let's get on to some fun things now. Incomings. Last night, heavily linked with, I don't know what his first name is, but Malinovskyi, a guy from Atalanta. James, are you looking for this guy I've told you about? Yeah. So, Paul, have you seen anything of this Malinovskyi we've been linked with?
No, I literally came up on something today that I was looking at, and I don't really know anything about him. But the last guy we bought from Atalanta, injuries aside, wasn't too bad. So they've obviously got quite a decent academy there and decent kind of coaching and stuff. So yeah, without really looking into it too much, I think Paratici and has earned to be trusted. So if there's a serious link to him by Para, there I'm for it. I don't really know a lot about him to make an informed decision.
So Craig, obviously you've probably done the same as me with this guy. Looked on YouTube.
Standard.
Yeah. So this guy has got a sweet left peg on him, hasn't he? He can strike a ball. He's obviously a creative player. Where do you see him fitting in? Do you think he's the sort of guy we bring in and then we maybe let Hill go out on loan? Or do you think he's a guy that comes in to fill this creative midfielder role that lots of fans are screaming for? Where do you think if he fits in? I
think he is that CAM that people are screaming out for. I think if he does come in, I think it's at the expense of Hill. I think he does go out on loan if he does come in. But I don't know. I've watched the YouTube clips and he looks like a world beater to me. So bring him in is what I say. But no, I don't. I still maintain. I said this last time I was on the pod, and I won't be told any different. That he is not. We do not necessarily need a centre attacking midfielder to play the way Conte ball. We just don't need it. Yeah. It's a luxury. So I don't know what it's going to cost us, but I'll just talk about James Madders, which is the other one people are screaming up and down about. We need to go and get James Madders. Well, people were kicking off when we bought Richarlison for 60 million. He was going to be a backup to Kane. So why are we spending 60 million on Richarlison? Well, why are we going to spend 60 million on Maddison to sit on the bench for the vast majority of our games? Because he doesn't fit into Conte ball. And I think ultimately I see this player as a luxury to bring into the squad to help us out in those games where we can't break down the opposition or we need something different. 80 million, thanks, Steve.
So, when you look at that, and I think he's got a year left on his contract. He's 29. I don't even think he's a first choice player for Atalanta. I think spent a lot. No, I think he spent a lot of time on their bench. I heard that earlier on. I don't know where.
I didn't see that in the highlight reel. I've got to say, he's always starting.
So, James, have you found out a little bit on this guy? What he does, what he could give us?
Malinovskyi plays for Atalanta. Played 101 games in his time there. Only played 1 minute so far this season. Played 30 games all season. Statistically, I'm going to annoy everybody. He's better than Maddison. Hot take. He's a bit older.
That doesn't annoy me, James. I'm all in for that.
Well, there you go. So for this kind of player, again, TLDR, what you're looking for is expected XG, expected goals, assisted, shots, shot creating actions, that sort of jazz. We can play actual jazz if you want. Anyway, so James Maddison, just a quick rundown of his expected assists with 90, it's 0.19. Shot creating actions is 4.13, and progressive passes 4.1. Whereas you look at Malinovskyi, do you want to know how many progressive passes he does per 90? 5.79. He creates 5 shot creating actions a game. XG assisted is 0.32. That's double what Maddison's doing. When you look at his shots total per 90, Maddison is under 3, just 2.93. You look at Malinovskyi, it's 3.5. In these attacking aggressive areas, he's better. Progressive carries. Malinovskyi, 7.5. James Maddison, 5.67. That's in the bottom 40% percentile for attacking midfielders in Europe. Malinovskyi, he's in the top 25% of his position. Pardon?
No, I was going to say, what I've learned from that, James, is you need to apply for some of these scouting jobs that Tottenham are asking for at the moment. You'll fit right in there.
If you look at... shots total for Malinovskyi is in the top 3% for attacking midfielders in Europe. He's 29, but he's a solid player. Do you know what? Maybe I should apply for a scouting job. I can't bloody do a worse job than our scouts.
Mate, you should do. Why not? Have a go. But this guy strikes me, this deal, I'm not saying strikes me as like you said something else earlier, Craig, that this deal looks like there's a target that maybe we want. Maybe Zaniolo was the guy they wanted. That's not going to happen. So this is like, this guy has got that array of like shooting and passing, that type of thing we're looking for. But he's a little bit less. And we could potentially have him on. They're trying to get him on a year loan with the option to buy. It smacks a bit of that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And again, someone said in the chat, I think 18 million is a fee, loan with an 18 million option to buy. I think it's a no-brainer for that sort of money, for the stats that James sort of talked about. So, go for it. He will be, he will be a squad player, I'm sure, in terms of he won't be that immediate starter in Conte ball. But it's good. You're right. I do think, though, for any new incomings now, whatever in terms of incomings, we're going to have to see some outgoings first, I think. I just think we can't, I know it annoys people when you say this, but the reality is you can't keep adding players to the squad whilst we've still got Winks, all the players we've talked about tonight are still sitting around waiting for exits.
Yeah, I think, Craig, that you'll find that if this Malinovskyi guy comes in, will either leave the day before, or it'll just set a load of wheels in motion. But I mean, as we were talking, you say about James Maddison. I don't think, and I've said this before, and I think you pretty much agree with me. And I'm not sure if James will, but everybody talks about these creative players, but we don't, and this is why I've got the issue with the right wing back. We don't, or Conte doesn't want like a James Maddison player. That's not really what he does. Like Fabregas and Eriksen, when he went to Inter, they came someone who sort of came in later in the season. They were an addition. They weren't part of the initial plan. They were just somebody who came in at certain points of the season when there was a bit of a lull or they needed that. I think that the creativity as such will come from somewhere else. And I think Paul will probably, we've had this discussion with Paul before. Us as fans may be desperate for a creative player, but Conte and Tottenham aren't desperate for a creative player, are they?
No, absolutely not. And I said that last time I was on the pod, didn't I? And I still maintain it. Conte ball. We've got the midfield is set pretty much in terms of any attacking midfielder that does come in. It's a bonus because the stars have aligned in terms of exits and opportunities are there to bring someone in.
Yeah, I think. What do you think, James, to that? Go on, I can see you.
I disagree a smidge. So
go on then.
What Conte wants is he wants a guy who can play in a 2 in midfield deep and still be creative. And my evidence for this is, unfortunately, talking about Chelsea, when he was Chelsea manager, for the season in which they won the league, Cesc Fabregas, who is by no means a defensive midfielder, got 29 starts for them in the Premier League. He played nearly 40 games for them overall in the season. Fabregas is overwhelmingly a dick because he played for Arsenal and Chelsea, but a creative midfielder, right? He is that kind of deeper, creative player. The only games in which Conte played with Matic solely together were in the more defensive games. But the majority of games, it was Fabregas playing, right?
Yeah.
He does. He obviously likes that creative passing midfielder. He just doesn't want a guy necessarily like Maddison who can't do the defensive work as well. I don't know if he feels like someone like Højbjerg or lovely ringtone, Craig. Someone like Højbjerg or Bissouma can't necessarily do sufficient defensive work to solve them to allow for a player like that. I think the issue with Maddison is you can't play him in the midfield too, right? If he wants that creative player, he needs that guy a bit like Julian Weigl, for example, who can play deeper while also having good progressive passing numbers and good expected XG in terms of assists numbers. So he does like those more creative players. I mean, when he was manager of Juventus, he played Pirlo and Pogba, right? He does like these more attacking progressive players. He just needs to fit them in within the right roles. And my worry is we don't have those players in the market.
Absolutely no, and I think what Gibbo said right at the start of that conversation was about we probably got that first target or that second target in that role, which is his peak of play he wants to see in that role, but they're not available to us right now. And I think now we're seeing this second, third, fourth choice or temporary slot, if you like, to come in the short term. And I think it's going to be interesting. I just think it's going to be who could predict it with Paratici juggling plates left, right, and centre.
But I don't. When we're talking about Fabregas and Pirlo, I don't. I don't think they're the creative players that people are talking about. We're talking like Maddison. Maddison isn't a Pirlo or a Fabregas. Their play. I mean, what an arsehole Fabregas was, but he was a fantastic footballer who could sort of do everything, couldn't he? Little bit defensive work, little bit of an attacking work. He could do all of that. Are you back with us, Paul? Can you hear everything?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay?
Yeah, can you hear me all right? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Sorry, I had some problems with my earbuds. Never buy the sport ones. They're useless.
What we were talking about, mate, and I think, like I said, I think you've said this before, is we're talking about these creative players coming into Spurs, but I don't necessarily think Conte wants that type of player. And then James brought in like Fabregas and Pirlo at Juventus.
Okay.
But I think they had a little bit more than these, sort of like these. We're looking at like saying Maddison, but he plays sort of further up the pitch. I think Fabregas and Pirlo were pretty much all rounders, weren't they? They were in a different league really to Maddison. They're far better footballers.
Yeah, different systems, different leagues, different players, and basically it comes down to it, a lot more talent.
Yeah.
I think it's a myth that we need an attacking midfielder. I think it's going to be based on systems of play, automations, and having wing backs play so far up the pitch that they almost play like wide forwards with Kulu hugging the touchline and somebody undercutting, or somebody overlapping Son on the other side while he comes inside. I've said this a lot. I think we're going to be playing like person A gets the ball, person C, person D already makes a run. Person A gives it to B and already knows where person C and D is, and that's when they play. We couldn't do that at the weekend because Chelsea, as Craig and James and yourself said, were at it, and they disrupted that. They disrupted that. But normally, as we saw last season, that works. This idea that we need a locksmith to unpick a low block and stuff. No, we don't. We just need to get the ball wider. We need to move it quicker. And we need to be a bit more direct, and we need to like win the ball back further up the field and dominate the middle of the park. All the things that we're trying to do now at the moment. So I don't think we need a Maddison, not for the money that Leicester seem to be like wanting for their players. I mean, they want 55 million for Fofana. I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, and he's got a ceiling, but you know, I don't know who's doing evaluations over at Leicester at the moment, but they need a new computer because, you know, 65 million, 70 million for Maddison. No chance. No.
They want those, Paul. They want that because Man United was stupid enough to pay them 80 million for Maguire, and they think everybody else will just follow suit. They're not going to, are they? They're not, they're not going to get that for those. But no, I mean, I agree, mate. So, like, we were talking about this guy from... You were about when we were talking about this Malinovskyi from Russia, weren't you? Ukrainian guy. Russia. Ukraine. Yeah, Ukrainian guy. Yeah, but that smacks of a deal where, like, say, we were after Zaniolo and it's not going to happen, so we're just sort of looking at what's available now to maybe fill that gap for a year or so, isn't it?
Is that just how much? Do we know what the figures are involved with this Malinovskyi guy?
I think the rumor was it's a loan with an option to buy for 18 million.
Okay, so he'll be just an option on the bench in case we do need someone to come on and then play a bit more creative. With 10, that kind of money, if we're going to pay 55, 60 million for Richarlison, and he's not our first option, taking a bit of a punt on this guy again. Don Para and Conte certainly have earned the trust of us. If they want them, I don't really like saying that. But I know
what you mean.
If Don Para thinks it, and Conte's giving it the green light, then for that kind of money, which Craig is talking about there, it seems very little kind of risk on our side. I think Longley's probably on the same kind of deal. I mean, they'll make a stopgap, and hopefully they'll get some minutes with us, and therefore they'll go back to the respective clubs. If we don't take the option, well, we haven't got an option to buy Longley, but with this guy, if for 18 million. For a Premiership club, that the money that we spend on the money that we've got, it seems fairly low risk. And I mean, why not? I've not seen him play.
Yeah, James said as well, Paul. James, you said, didn't you, that his numbers and what he'd offer on paper is better than Maddison, didn't you? You said, like, obviously.
Oh yeah. They factually are. When you look at his expected assists per 90, they're like way up. They're over double Maddison's numbers. In other words, if you understand how expected goals works, it's the same general premise. His assists are marginally better than Maddison's. The interesting thing to know about Maddison is his expected assists per 90 are way lower than his actual assists per 90, whereas Malinovskyi, they're pretty close. In other words, Maddison's overperforming in assists. So if you took that sample, if you played Maddison in a simulation for 1,000 games, his assists would come down. So in other words, he's going to get less assists next season than this season. The passes he's playing, the strikers in front of him are overperforming, whereas that's not the case for Malinovskyi. He does more shot creating actions a game, and progressive carries and progressive passes are better than him. Even like defensive numbers are better for Malinovskyi than Maddison. Like Maddison completes something like 18 pressures a game, 18.31 pressures per game. Malinovskyi is 20.1. It's 21.1. Sorry, that's way better. Maddison's completing under a block a game, under an interception per game, whereas Malinovskyi's completing marginally better than that. He's completing over a block a game. He's completing 1.5 per game. It's, his defensive work numbers are slightly better, but he's still overwhelmingly an attacking player. But his attacking numbers are better, right? So you look at Malinovskyi and you think, this guy's 29, he's more experienced, he's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper, he's not going to be like 60 million or something crazy.
Better on the wallet.
And he's better in the areas that matter. I still don't know I'd want him in that more like defensive role, like in a Fabregas or Pirlo role. But as an option in those more progressive roles, or even in a free in midfield, yeah, he's probably better than Maddison. I mean, I get he's not Premier League ready, but I think that's bullshit, basically. It's a myth. I mean, Diego Costa wasn't Premier League ready, and he scored a lot of goals, didn't he? So, yeah, I think he could still do a job in those progressive roles late on in games when we need to make those tactical switches. I mean, Conte, against Chelsea, he made 2 formation changes in the same game. Conte's capable of doing that, so yeah, he would suit us.
So, as well, Craig will back me up. Paul, like you said, you don't watch the YouTube videos, mate, because but you've got to watch it. Some of this guy's strikes. Obviously, you can't gauge how they play in a match. Some of the balls this guy's hit to score goals, or like where it's hit a bar or hit the post, they're unreal, isn't it, Craig? I can't believe that. Like, I've never really heard of him before, or never seen much of him, but he has got great technique of striking the ball, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, unbelievable. But then I hadn't heard of Kulo or Bentancur before we signed them, really.
Yeah. No.
So I look at the 2 gems we've got there. So
yeah, but just to have a look, I know you can't judge anything off YouTube, but like this,
he looks a player. He does look a player.
Just if you just look at his when I watched stuff on Kulusevski. Mate, I didn't think he'd be as good as he was now. But sometimes you watch a player and you think how they control the ball or how they move, and where I thought you could tell with Kulusevski that there's there's some quality there. Young kid at Juventus. I mean, he's come and he's been fantastic. You could just tell that he was like classy. And this bloke looks like he can really. If he gets the ball in space, it's towards the end of the game. And when like the game's getting stretched and you think you just need someone to have a crack from, because we never shoot, someone to have a crack from 20 yards. Yeah. This guy's got a decent strike on him. But, there's still, how long we got left in the window? 2 weeks? 2 weeks we got?
14 days, yeah. Yeah.
Well, right. Anyway, lads, we've been going for nearly 2 hours now. I think we've had a fucking decent show, to be fair. I think it's been really good. So we haven't even mentioned Wolves. Should we just quickly have what we think the score will be at the weekend? Should we have a couple of score predictions and how we think it will go? We all up for that?
Yeah.
Come on then, James. You go first. Spurs Wolves, 12:30 Saturday. What's happening?
3-1 Spurs.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Many changes to the team?
Maybe Perisic, maybe Basuma, but largely the same team.
Well, Romero's out.
Romero's out, yeah. So Sanchez and Romero.
Yeah?
Sanchez, yeah.
Yeah. Right, and Craig, what are your thoughts on Saturday, mate?
3-0.
Yeah.
Sanchez will have a stormer.
Yeah.
Coming in, and I think we'll see Perisic, and I think we'll see Basuma.
Yeah, fair enough. Paul?
Yeah, I'll go. I think 3-0, 3 or 4-0. I don't think they'll score. Sanchez coming in for Romero. I would start Perisic over Cesc. I think Cesc froze a little bit. I know he got peppered the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes against Chelsea. Rubens off the cheek, kind of bullied him a little bit. So I would take him out of there. I'd start with Perisic, yeah. Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he starts with Richarlison, to be honest, and drops Son. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, 3 or 4-0. I don't think they'll score. They averaged just over one goal a game last season. The guy up front's not really doing it. I know they're about to get Nunes, but they've not closed that deal yet. They've gone to a back four because they've lost Connor Cody. Pedro Neto is a good player. Don't get me wrong, and obviously Neves is a really good passer of the ball, but he plays quite deep now, not very mobile. I don't think they've got enough to score. Famous last words. So 3 or 4-0.
Just before I'll give you my prediction, we've had a super chat here from Gov. James, are you working on this? Any chance you can get the percentage of goals scored from set pieces, either free kicks, direct or indirectly, or corners by Premier League team?
So you're just asking what is the percentage of goals scored from set pieces from each Premier League team?
Is that what you have to Gov? Yeah? Can you let us know in the chat, mate? While we're waiting for him to answer, I think it will be 2-1. I know we beat them the other year 2-0, but we don't tend to do great against Wolves at home. I think we'll beat them, but I think it'll be a little bit more nervy. I think Sanchez will come in for Romero. I'm hoping Perisic starts. I feel a bit bad saying that for Sessegnon, but I just want to see Perisic, see what he can give us from the start, see what he can add. And I've got a feeling it will be Højbjerg and Bissouma in the middle of the park. And I agree with Paul. I wouldn't be too shocked if Richarlison starts. I think we're in a position now where you can sort of say to Son, look, come out, have a 60 minutes on the bench, and we'll get you on, and hopefully gain his confidence a bit. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a few changes.
And then that'll be really interesting to see how Son, because that'll be the first time in Son's career, Spurs career, that's happened, that he's been dropped. Because normally, as I said earlier, he's a bit undroppable unless he's like, no, I mean, I don't think he's ever been dropped. I mean, somebody, if they want to drop it in the chat or whatever, will let me know. But before we got someone like Richarlison, we'd just have to ride out this trough of bad form from Son. I know he's not bad, but when he's not performing what we want,
he's not up to speed, is he?
Yeah, he's not up to speed. So basically, now take him out for maybe the whole game. Maybe certainly not start him at the weekend and see how he responds. If he comes on with it, he might actually that might be the kick up the arse he needs, or he might just he just might start sulking. I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see.
What I used to find with Son, I'm not going to hark back to the Poch days. I'm not going to wax lyrical about him, but before he sort of became then the mega star he is now, when he came in and we started realising what a good player he was. Yeah. He wasn't a guaranteed start then, but he used to have periods where he'd come in and he'd score 5 or 6 goals and he'd be brilliant. And what Poch did brilliant with him was when he had those little sort of fallow periods started, he'd bring him out the team and he'd start like Chadley, Ericsson, Dele and Kane up front. And then Son would come on and he'd score, but he'd be on the bench the next game, and a similar scenario. And then within 3 or 4 weeks, he was back in the starting team and he'd be scoring goals again. And obviously, he carried. But what we've had over the past 2 years is when Son is having these periods of poor form, we've just kept playing him. And to his credit, he's had really poor games, but he's managed to score or managed to assist a goal. But now, obviously, we can sort of bring him out and sort of, so hopefully, because I think obviously competition raises performance, should raise performance levels at the very top of the very top elite athletes. So I can't see it being a bad thing, because it's going to be the same for Kulusevski as well, isn't it? The same, and it should be the same for Kane, really. So if it's just Son at the minute that needs that little kick or that little rest or that little sort of jolt, then so be it.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I actually think, though, if anyone drops out, it will be Kulo over Son. Is my gut feel, right or wrongly.
Oh well, I think the good thing is, mate, we've got these options.
Absolutely. We never had them last season, did we?
No, and that's what we're after. James, go on, mate.
So I don't have it as a percentage, Gov, sadly for you. Last season, I can tell you that in terms of set pieces, expected goals, in comparison to so expected goals, set pieces versus set piece goals. Tottenham, for example, our expected goals from set pieces was 12.18. We scored 8 from that chance from 108 attempts, so that's like less than 8% success. The best team last season in the Premier League from set pieces in terms of XG was Liverpool. They, from 206 set pieces attempts, scored 20.68. XG-wise, they scored 19 actually, whereas City, percentage-wise, they had 172 set-piece attempts. They scored 21 goals from those, which is interesting because that ranks us 9th in terms of set-piece XG, so expected goals from set pieces in the league, whereas last season, in terms of overall XG, we were actually 4th. We had 378 shots and we scored 51. We had 51 XG from those attempts. So that's something to consider. Sorry, if I had a bit more knowledge, you would go to ask that question. I'd have done a bit better research.
Well, hopefully, James, if we need to, we can do a little bit. And if Gov comes on to watch us again and he asks the same question, mate, hopefully at some point we can get it down and we can let him know on Friday's show or next week whenever we're on again, mate. Not a problem.
I expect to see those numbers go up now that we have a set piece coach.
Yeah. VO, yeah.
The big draw away from that is that we're underperforming what we should be in terms of set pieces. That's the draw away from that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could do the percentages, but not while I've had a few drinks. I'd have to get my calculator out for that. So sorry, Gov, don't have that number. But I know
the youth of today, James. The youth of today, honestly, calculating.
If you ask me in that chat, Gov, if you at me in the Patreon chat, so if you want to become a Patreon, you get to ask me questions apparently, which people want. If you at me in that, Gov, I can probably work it out. Maybe not tomorrow, but Friday you can definitely ask me. But you can ask me tomorrow, but I'm going to be at the pub tomorrow. So there you go. I'll work it out for you. I'll try and get the specific numbers. But that's the gist of it. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant chat, lads. Like James just said, anybody who's watching who's not a patron member, please join up. We've got loads of little bits going on in there. We've got fantasy football. We do predictions. I think Keith won in the group, won the prediction league last year, and he got a Spurs shirt, didn't he, Paul? Was it an 84?
84, one of the Hummel ones. Yeah, I think he got one of those. Yeah, it was nice as well. I was looking at it thinking I should have took that competition a bit more seriously, but no, it's nice shirt.
And it's good chat in there. Everybody's, it's all pretty friendly, all pretty good natured, and people put questions on there. There's a ticket share, so yeah. If people want to get interested in that, keep an eye on our socials. And please, if you've watched tonight and you haven't, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, keep an eye on us on all the socials, on Insta, Facebook, and Twitter. And thanks for tuning in tonight. Craig, going to the game Saturday, yeah?
No, I'm not actually. I've had to. I've given my ticket away to. Friend of the show, Shan, of her other half, because what am I doing on Saturday? Oh, the rail strikes. It was just near impossible for me to get down there. So I just thought earlier on I'll make the decision and make the call not to go. So I'll be there in the next home game.
Well, great guest anyway, Craig. Hopefully we'll get you on again pretty soon, mate.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Brilliant. Paul, thanks for coming on, mate. Great chat tonight.
No dramas, mate. Thank you very much. You're a good host, Gibbo.
Thank you very much.
Well, mate. You're doing well.
Very good host.
Very well.
But Paul does a lot on the pod. So if you listen up, the pods are on Apple, Spotify, all decent.
Stitcher, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so get on there. Paul, follow us all on the social medias. And James, as always, you seem pretty sober to me, mate. Tonight you've done a good job with the stats.
Yeah, 4 pints of Guinness is nothing to an experienced drinker like me. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much of the game I'll catch. It's early, so I will, because I'm going clubbing on Saturday. So I'll see how much I get of it. But I should be able to get it, so we can talk about it on Wednesday. But yeah, lovely to be on. Craig and Paul, been brilliant. Everyone in the comments, asking me questions, and appreciate the super chat, Gov. Been brill. At me and Slack, and I'll work it out percentage-wise at some point when I'm sober. And I can send that to you, because you gave us a tenner. So
yeah, thanks for that, Gov. Keep watching, keep asking questions, keep following us. Tell your mates about us. Tell your mates to tell their mates about us. Tell your family members about us. We just want to get people involved talking Spurs. So all we've got left to say is, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Go on.